Hey there, fellow scientists. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to Starbirds. Episode 7, Signals from Beyond. Ravsicle, Sector 7, Signals from Beyond. Finally, we've arrived at the big asteroid. The only thing left to do is to set up the Strangelet detector, right, Stella? The only thing? We still need to build it, and then place it on the highest plateau so the signal isn't obstructed. We're talking high specialty ops. Calm down, Stella. We'll make it happen. No problem. So, how do we make it happen? Cap, let me take a look and gather some samples. Finally, a challenge, and some space dust on my suit again. Been sitting around for too long already. Rust, are you sure? These cliffs look shifty. Could be as brittle as eggshells. I don't mean to imply that you're about to do something foolish, but... Stella, let Rust scratch his wings a little. Not all birds enjoy being cooped up. So, unlike previous systems, this one's rather different. There's only one asteroid, but it is a honker. So let's go to the honker. Garuda 1. What an incredible asteroid. I've never seen a surface terrain like it. The formation history must be truly unique. Reminds me of Miranda, for you space nerds. Stella, I don't think I'm getting up those walls anytime soon. They crumble to dust the moment my wheels touch the surface. How are we supposed to build on this? Can't land up top. We can't haul pipes up there up steep ledges. I got something in mind, but we'll need to test my nascent invention. The elastoscope. Gather some extra materials. All right. So let's get started. I'll build... So we're only allowed to build on the lowest section, as you can see. The large craters are not accessible to me, so I'll choose here. Wait, what is that? A shroom? How'd a mushroom even get out of here? Yeah, that's a mushroom, all right. Fungal spores are very resilient. Some can survive space travel. Likely hitched a ride on an asteroid and found a place to grow. A drone brought back a sample. Its fruiting body forms a kind of natural electric current. Odd indeed. So it's creating 4 power. If it conducts energy, we could use it as a power source. Let's test it carefully. I feel like they're not as enthused about finding alien life for the first time. All right, let's export carbon. So there is natural occurring carbon on the surface, and we can just export it. We can also export methane. And iron. Let's run the carbon like this. And uranium. So now we're exporting 4 things already. Time to do some rover missions. Whee! All right, 11 quarters done. Do a reactor next, and more science. So what we're trying to do is unlock the ramp, plateau ramp. And in order to make the plateau ramp, we need light alloy. Light alloy, interestingly enough on this planet, is going to be feathers plus strong alloy equals light alloy. And then we also need the elastoscope, which is thread plus plastic. The easiest one to make probably is going to be the light alloy. And that's going to start off with a habitat. So we're going to get a habitat down for the feathers. So let's build a hab. And there's lots of small asteroids here, so that's not a problem. So that habitat is going to be powered up by... actually, you know what? Let's just power it up with the mushrooms. Mushroom-powered feathers. And I'm going to run the power around... Because this launch pad is already, like, at capacity. I'm going to run the power... Oh, the cable stopped. around like this. There. So now we have a source of feathers. And feathers plus strong alloy equals lead alloy. Strong alloy is iron plus carbon in a crucible. So let's get a crucible up, and I'll drop it here. Oops. So the light feather, the feathers have to hit the chem lab. So we'll drop a chem lab maybe here. Bring the light feathers and prepare for extreme spaghetti. And then the power. And then the crucible. Spaghetti. Alright, so the crucible needs to make strong alloy. And strong alloy plus feathers equal light alloy. And then the light alloy will have to somehow get piped out of here to maybe here. So we'll need a launch pad here for the light alloy. So the strong alloy is going to be a combination of iron and carbon, which is pretty easy to source. Well, let's fulfill some of these orders so I can make money. So we've got iron and carbon. And then this thing needs one more power, which there's really not solar on this tile. So then we're immediately relying on nuclear, which I need more money. So drop a nuke gen, an extractor for the nuke gen. And now this crucible has everything it needs for the heavy alloys all loaded up. Living quarters makes more money. So once the strong alloys have been turned into light alloys for research purposes, I'll pipe some of the strong alloys back to HQ for the living quarters. Somehow. Let's change some of the plumbing here so that I can have a launch pad for the strong alloys to get piped back to HQ. So we've got carbon and iron make strong alloy. Strong alloy gets shipped to the chem lab mixed with feathers for light alloy. Light alloy gets sent back home for the research. So that production chain is done. And then the next production chain is the elastoscope. So elastoscope is a little bit more complicated. It is thread, which is from feathers, in a refiner. So then we'll have... Oh boy, this is getting... I might need to rework this. Or, alternatively, set up some melters. Yeah. I'm gonna change the locations of some stuff, dropping melters in to gain access to more uranium. So once I have a little bit more money, I can melt some area. Okay, all of the light alloys have been supplied. So I'm going to retool this just a little bit so it's less chaotic. We still want a crucible. And this crucible is still going to take carbon and iron and power from uranium. I don't think I'm going to try to wire the wire this up to the mushrooms, it's like not worth the trip. Because it creates too much of a mess. So then this is making strong alloys again. And that will fulfill the living quarters. So the other thing we need to do is the elastoscope. So we should start working on that. Which means we're probably going to want... I could use the feathers for it, but I don't want to disrupt... Actually, we can get rid of that. The reason being, the light alloys aren't needed anymore. So I can definitely simplify a lot of the production as a result. Oh, now the light feathers are required again. So if that's the case, we'll want 2 habitats. So we'll do a habitat here and a habitat here. And we can wire them up. So I'm going to stop exporting uranium to here and just export feathers, because that's very straightforward. And then for uranium, we can just drop it over here instead, because that's very straightforward. So now we're still exporting uranium, we're also now exporting feathers. The other feathers over here can get wired up. And then these feathers are going to be processed into thread through a refinery. So let's put it like that. Good. So now we have thread, and we need plastics. Plastics is going to be a mix of methane and carbon in a chem lab. So we have a chem lab. Carbon. Methane. And now we have plastics. Oh, look at all that fulfillment. Bring it on, I need the money. Perfect. So, hydrocarbons. Alright, so now we need plastics, which is just refined hydrocarbons. So we have thread and plastic. And thread plus plastic in a stuff factory equals... equals the elastoscope. I see the problem. Let's wire it like this. Spaghetti. And now this just needs power. And power requires nuclear. So I just need money to pay for the nuclear. So, earn some money for the reactor. Yeah, good bit of spaghetti. But it's because I'm, like, constrained to the lowest trader, if you will. Which, you know, means that I have a very small buildable space. It could have been done more elegantly. I just am not I'm not a player of a lot of resource management games. So, yeah, I have, like, a small trunk of resources here. But, you know, one might argue that that's not enough. The other thing I could do is, if you really wanted it nice and clean, you could just remove everything and only be working on the quest goal. But then you're just gonna have to constantly be rebuilding everything, which, you know, has its own problems. Alright, I produce hydrocarbons here. I'm going to siphon off some of these hydrocarbons in a pipe hub so that I can sell the hydrocarbons too, because the lab requires hydrocarbons. So half my hydrocarbons go to the lab, half go to plastics. I now have enough for nuclear plants. This is Gonna be upgraded twice with science. I'm extracting a lot of resources and producing 4 power. We need 6, so I need 1 more nuke. And we should be in business. There it is, elastoscope. That's the stuff. Oh boy, I'm not making any of this. And once 20 elastoscope has been exported back to HQ, we have 1 so far. And we're making... It hasn't calculated how much I'm making, but I'm making it. Once we export that all back to HQ, we'll have the ramp unlocked. Now, I did want thread. Good, where's my thread? I make thread... here? Okay, I don't think I can fork that off to export it. No, actually, maybe I can. Let's try. No, because that doesn't work. Sorry, base, you're not getting your thread. Okay. This ramp auto-adjusts to the terrain and adheres to the asteroid while evenly distributing stress to avoid crumbling walls. Ruth, I'll focus the strangelet detector. If needed, you can use my lab to build more ramps, but I will need it back eventually. So we could use the opportunity to make more booms, right? 2, right? Sure, but the ramps gotta come first. Basically what it's saying is, we only have so many strange points to build ramps, so don't just like blow up a whole bunch of holes in the asteroid or it's like a fail condition. Alright. So here we go. New quest. Make chips from an electronics factory. So we're going to need to research electronics factories. And to make lasers, which we make in the optical factory. So what I might do for my sanity is to remove all the infrastructure we have so far. Because none of it is really all that required for the ultimate goal. And because we have very limited space on this one asteroid has to be responsible for all the steps. So as a result, I'm grinding everything to a complete halt. And what we're trying to do is to build plateau ramps up to the tippy top. So we'll put a ramp here. And here. And here. Yep, there's a spot. Prime real estate for the strangelet detector. So what we're trying to do is build a strangelet detector at the top plateau. So let's start working backwards. The first thing we can do is to make lasers in an optics factory. It also wouldn't hurt to continually export uranium and methane for just money. So let's get that basic export going, just so that I don't grind my economy to a nothing. So let's do it here. Uranium plus methane. Export back to HQ. That way, economy keeps running somewhat smooth. I mean, I can always rover, but we don't necessarily need to do that. So let's work on the lasers first. So lasers is uranium. That's really easy, so we'll figure out the glass first. Glass is quartz. Quartz can be straight extracted. So there's quartz literally right here, which can be extracted straight out of the ground. And then the quartz gets processed into glass through a refiner. So there's quartz there, uranium here. Oops, I'm trying to make it as clean as possible for your sanity. And again, we're refining the quartz into glass like this. Oh my god. And then combining it in an optics factory, which I'm sure is going to require a lot of power, but luckily there's a lot of uranium over there for power. So we'll plop an optics factory here, bring the glass over, and the quartz over, and then extract nuclear power for it. Of course, nothing I'm exporting helps me right now, but whatever. Okay. This is now making lasers. And we can just send the lasers via launch pad back to base. Pretty small production facility. Gets the job done. Lasers already being made. The next part is the chips. And chips is going to be a little bit more complicated, I think. Now, what's important is that you don't block access to your plateau ramps, because there's only like one way up, right? It's pretty limited. So in order to, before we even bother making chips, we need to research the electronics factory. So we'll start with circuit boards. Circuit boards is acid plus silicon in a components factory. There is silicon here and acid here. So this is a perfect spot for it. So I'm actually going to get this acid because it's further away from this ramp. So silicon plus acid into components lab. My only worry is power for this thing. So what I'm going to do is a nuclear plant with a boosted extractor, running a cable like this. Actually, I'm going to run the power cable. Whoops. I have like edge scrolling on. Run a power cable like this. And there we go. So we have circuit boards. And we need to send these circuit boards back to HQ. So we'll just launch pad them for the research for electronics factory. The other one is conductors. Conductors is plastic plus glass. Plastic is hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons is methane and carbon. So anywhere where there's methane and carbon. There's methane and carbon right here. So this makes sense to center around here. So methane plus carbon equals hydrocarbon in a in a chem lab. All right. There we go. So now we have hydrocarbons. And we're going to take these hydrocarbons and process them into plastics in a refiner. Now we have plastics. And then those plastics are going to need to be combined with glass in a components lab. So put a components lab, plastics, and then we have to get glass. Glass is just refined quartz. And there is quartz here. This is going to get spaghetti, but that's fine. Bring this quartz down a pipe, down the ramp, into a refinery. Maybe here. Into the components lab. And then the components lab itself needs power. And this will get spaghetti as well, but that's fine. We'll do an extractor. Oh, come on. Extractor. Into a nuke lab. Boost it once, maybe twice. And then run the power cable all the way over here. Now this thing is making... Once this gets fed, he's going to be making the conductor. I hope. We'll see in a minute. And then we can just launch it right there. So plastic plus glass. Plastic plus glass equals conductor. This makes conductors. This gets shipped back home. And as a result of that production chain, which spanned multiple layers, we'll be able to unlock the electronics factory. So it needed methane, carbon, and quartz. There's not really a layer of this asteroid where all three things like kind of overlap easily. So there was no like clean way to do this. There's, I'm sure, a better way to do it, but not a clean way, so to speak. And this will unlock the electronics factory, and then the electronics factory is circuit board plus conductor equals chip once we have it unlocked. There it is. So now we know a few more credits for the electronics factory. Perfect. So over here, let's see, where are we? The electronics factory, I'll just put it down for a moment, requires circuit boards and conductors, right? So what we want to do is we want to grab the conductors from here and not launch it to space. And then the circuit boards from up here, not launch this to space, and combine these two in electronics factory. This thing is also going to require a bit of power, so let's have it near this uranium. So here's the circuit boards. And then way down here is the conductors, which can snake up the ramp and up the second ramp. And now this is receiving both the reagents to make chips, and it just needs power. So, oh, that's an ice extractor. It just needs power. So we'll do 2 nuclear power plants to feed it. I don't, you know what? There's also the power, free power from the mushroom colonies that I might be able to utilize if I run my pipes very adjacent to one another, which would allow me to build this a little bit more cheaply, I think. So this is 4 power, and now we only need 2 power being supplied by the nuclear generator, which is pretty easy. Done. This thing is now producing, once the reagents are delivered, it will be producing the chips, and the chips can then, we can't launch there. We can launch over here. No, where? I'll just make another launch pad. Launch pad. Launch. All right, I'm gonna fast forward time a little bit to get the first chips off the line. Chips are getting delivered, and it is unlocking the Strangelet detector. Awesome. Base wants more hydrocarbons. Okay. Methane. Ooh. Carbon. Chem lab. Hydrocarbon. Ah, the Strangelet detector is complete. Ruth, go and place it in the small crater on the highest plateau. On it. Can you build a landing bay on this planet? Is that possible? Let's see. Yes. I believe you can have it shipped to its... No, maybe not. I am struggling to have it connect. So maybe that's not possible? Don't quote me on that. Alright, so here we are, the Strangelet detector. And this goes on the highest peak. What's interesting is it highlights the other small craters as valid, but they're not. What a beautiful piece of tech. Is the Strangelet detector ready to be fired up, Stella? Almost. We still need to supply it with a large-scale energy source. So, let's do one nuclear reactor, extractor, and upgrade. Fast forward time just a little bit. Let's see what that gets us. The victory condition is to power this up to 4. Now, interestingly, I could just reroute the power that we were giving the chips factory to it. But I'll just make a new one. And that should be all that is needed. I just need to wait for it to supply level. Done. That's the last box checked. The Strangelet detector is finally ready. Everything is in place. We just need to push that button. And this thing is going to reveal the secrets of the universe? Don't tell me it's 42. We don't know. That's why it's called a secret, Rust. The big question is, are there more Strangelets out there, or was it a local anomaly? Yes, you may peck the button, but not yet. Captain, any last words? Ahem, right. Flock, hear me. As hatchlings, we have heard tales of great explorers. Amelia Eggheart, Marco Pollo, Captain Chook. But now, it's about us. We've braved the cold and the dust. We've invented and adapted. And now, we will reap our rewards. Let's use our feathers to write history. I'm more interested in the resources we will find, to be honest. But I'm even getting goosebumps. Can geese get goosebumps? Can we stop squawking and finally go? Putting on my spacesuit. So the game in its current state, as you can see, is all coming soon. This is the finished mission for Ravsicle, as far as I know. I mean, as you can see, this is as far as it goes. Which is why I was saying at the start of the stream that there was it's pretty limited in scope. You know, that this is early access and there wasn't a lot of content yet. Now, of course, with that in mind, I could have go back and try to achievement hunt. You know, if you were interested in the achievements, there's certainly a lot more gameplay to be had if you were trying to do all the achievements, there'd be a lot more time involved. Obviously, I skipped most of it. And then there is the side puzzling routes that we didn't do, the sector 5.1 that I didn't complete. And then sector 2.1 that I didn't complete, and 3.1 that I didn't complete because they weren't part of the main mission. So there's other things that I didn't have time to show, and they would be outside of the scope of the stream. But that, friends, is where I am going to end, having covered what is currently available in the main campaign, without necessarily achievement hunting everything. And thank you so very much for watching. Thank you for tuning in to Starbirds, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Starbirds.